49. The last president inaugurated in the United States. The span of terrible days after the global comms blackout when the world was reshaped. The number of strange supernatural phenomena that appear around the globe. You're listening to The 49, the new series by Andrew Kooman. Get the content right in your inbox when you subscribe at the49.substack.com. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Welcome to the world of The 49.
At 0859, Duplo barked at the door again. The dog, uncharacteristically active and vocal in the last few hours, came to the bedroom to retrieve Diez. He had showered. There was no water quota in this part of Corridor West, but if there had been, he would have used a month's ration given the time he spent under the spray. He had to think, but the longer he stayed under the scalding beads of water, the more his mind emptied. Diez let the hot steam fill the room, which was no easy feat. The original owners had designed the master bathroom as though they prepared to house all the gods of Olympus. It was the size of a proper steam room that one would encounter at an athletic club, with a wide, tiled bench in the middle where he could stretch out head to toe. There were shower heads arranged so that his body could receive the cleansing spray of water at any angle. Could there really be a Phos behind the wall? Why couldn't there be? Why wouldn't there be? He argued with himself. Wouldn't it be just like God to do something so upside down, so unexpected? The boast of the super-spiritual, especially the anti-techocracy, was that there was no place for what was holy inside a system so clearly opposed to submission to anything other than raw, earth-bound political might. Phos. PhosforEssence. The pithy meme so often circulated popped into Diez's mind as the steam filled his lungs and he pushed at the hot air. The play on words appeared wherever the governor went in the early days of his ascendance, before the blackout sealed his political aspirations with the fate of the world. It was presented beside signs of similar design that read, GovforAbsence. 6 words that summarized how people viewed the man. A worldly vessel, always, already outside the realm of the spiritual. A black oil that could not mix with water. There were memes of that too. The physical, raw materials of Earth used to make the governor's off-world aims a reality, incompatible with the mysterious, divine events that took place on Earth as heaven seemed to fall at random, take up shop, and camp out among people. Thankfully, he'd set an alarm for 0850 so that he'd be snapped out of his reverie. Know thyself. He slipped on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. Would the Gov expect him to be robed? He would go as himself. He slipped the crucifix over his head and sat on the bed. He pulled a wool sweater over the shirt, knowing it was cool this time of year at the 49th, and if it was a Phos, it could feel colder still. Duplo barked as he entered the room and came to his side. He nuzzled Diez's calf. "Easy, boy," Diez said as he stood. "He's nothing if not punctual," Diez said as he went to the door. When he opened it, a droid stood waiting for him. "We have all the gear you'll need," it said. "Come this way. The governor is waiting." Diez brought Duplo to the mudroom, closed the door, and stepped into the hallway. He followed the droid to the fire exit at the end of the hall, the step through the door into the cement staircase, and climbed to the roof. "After you," the droid said and pointed toward the hovercraft that awaited him. It had the look of a dragonfly, a thin tail with a circular propulsion unit that bulged at the base, a round head with glass windows that could easily be imagined as eyes. A hole gaped at the thorax, and Diez stepped through it. Only the governor sat inside. It was a simple, elegant space. It looked like the cabin of the private jets CIA agents flew on missions to foreign countries in the films Diez liked to watch in his downtime. But the seats were wider, high-backed, more like something from a coffee shop. "We're traveling light," Diez said as he entered. He had to duck as he stepped into the aircraft. "I insisted the others travel separately," the governor said. "We're going with a small army. That's risky. They'll keep their distance. Does this come with seatbelts, in case we lose power and fall from the sky?" "We'll hover close to the ground," the governor smiled. "They've mapped it all out." "Oh, good," Diez replied. Unconvinced, my team spent the better part of the last 24 hours running every possible scenario. They studied all the footage from the humbling, Every angle of every approach that every corridor took to the Phos. We're talking the latest version of all our intelligent learning models. And it checks out against our standard practices outside of the Phos at Masquasis. You have a best practice for drone flight with the Phos? Diez asked. Drone, EV, any tech really. Yes. How close can we get? We always stay 3 miles outside the last known point of incarnation, based on the most recent thermal scan, which a dedicated satellite takes every 11 seconds. What? You call it that? Incarnation? We do. The ship started to move. Diez's stomach dropped for a moment. It moved fast. So, how close are we going to get to it? Let's just say they're playing it real safe. And it's a good thing you brought walking shoes.
Boyer pressed her finger against the panel. A band of light scanned her print. She leaned forward for the retinal scan. It was a one-time biometric scan that would give her access to the place. It was a corner unit in a line of 7 condos. Gorgeous, expansive, ridiculous. In other times, she would have whooped the moment she walked in through the doors and run to every room. But she needed to be careful. After she got in the EV that was sent to her apartment to fetch her, she'd received an alert. Her protein quota had been updated, along with every other part of her stipend. Her clothing budget increased, her water ration removed, her assembly quota reduced. She realized how quickly these luxuries of resource and time could dull her. It put her on high alert. What does he really want from me? She wondered. Her throat tightened at the thought that she had unwittingly become his enjo-kosai, that somehow she'd sent the wrong signal that she was willing to trade some form of companionship like the young Japanese women who famously exchanged different types of intimacy for luxury items. The thought moved her hand, instinctively, to the chain around her neck. The act of touching the crucifix helped to orient her as she stepped into the space. Ceilings at least 12 feet high, door frames 10 feet, the scent of rosemary and lavender in the temperature-controlled room with its leather accents and clean lines. She had stepped into a design magazine and out of reality for the moment. The new pad was across the river from the governor's mansion. She could see its big windows along the curve of the shoreline. Short leash, she thought. She was more than nearby. She was a neighbor. Another piece of paper awaited her, placed, like the other one from the governor's mansion, on one of the pillows of the king-sized bed in a room that overlooked treetops, with a peekaboo of the river below it. She opened the folded page. The same stationery, same initials, same illustration of a rocket at the bottom corner. In the middle, across the fold, the words, "The sunrise here is amazing. Enjoy the view." "Only if you give me a designer handbag," she said, as she put the paper back on the pillow. Boyer walked to the kitchen to scout the food and coffee situation. She found a fancy machine that served up drinks through voice command. She ordered an espresso, then checked her phone when she got a ping. There was an alert from a producer of the game with a detailed call sheet. Tomorrow, she was supposed to jump on the loop and head to LA. She had to shoot promo reels for her placement in the game. Production on the Twins episode was already ramping up, and it was bumped to the front of the line. They would start marketing the episode immediately. She'd already seen footage of her in the EV after the drone attack outside of Masqua Cheese, when the improvised explosive devices took out her supply convoy. It was surreal to see the playback. The editors cut together an amazing sizzle reel, 30 seconds or less, that showed the insurgents running at the vehicles with their wheelbarrows and wagons. The explosion that punctured the first truck like some invisible foot kicking the metal beast in the ribs. An interior shot as the blast rocked her vehicle and threw her off her seat. Her calm demeanor as the masked assailants pointed their rifles at her, a spiderweb of shattered glass between them. Her voice, which was played over and over again across social media, calmly stating, "This is a supplier envoy, a peace offering." She didn't recognize herself. She looked like an action star in a made-for-the-screen film. It all matched her memory, but seemed somehow different. She knew that anything could be modified in this digital era to match whatever any editor or showrunner could imagine. The public was eating it up. She kept virtually no digital footprint, certainly no public profile. But that reality, she now realized, was suddenly altered, as quickly and easily as the footage itself. The chat rooms were calling her the emissary, and the show had taken it up. It's what the call sheet named her for the promo ad sets they'd run from now until only God knew when. The first one they were shooting on the lot, starting tomorrow, was titled Peace Offering. She dropped her device and rubbed her face with her hands. The gall of the corridor was as infuriating as its propaganda was impressive. The smell and sound of the water pouring over the ground espresso beans nudged her out of her musings. She was a pawn in a large chess game. She would trust that she was being moved by a trustworthy, invisible hand. She'd be on the lot in LA, the very place the bishop would be. The invisible hand was moving.
Thanks for listening to this portion of The 49 by Andrew Kooman. New content drops for paid subscribers every Monday at the49.substack.com. That's the49.substack.com. On Tuesdays, we release new audio on all your favorite podcast platforms. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe and to share it with a friend. Thanks for listening to The 49.